vote passed with a final tally of 89-3. The decision was made. Humanity was to be contained, monitored, restrained, and, if necessary, neutralized. The Galactic Council, comprised of the most ancient and advanced species in known space, had rarely agreed on anything so decisively. But humanity had changed that. Their rapid rise, their unpredictable behavior, their uncanny ability to turn defeat into dominance. It terrified them. Vran of the HFY sat in silence as the chamber emptied, his tendrils flexed with barely concealed irritation. He'd warned the Council about this years ago. Give the humans time and space, and they would grow teeth. Now they had fleets, colonies, and worse, alliances. They were spreading like a virus. And with each planetary claim, the galaxy became more unstable. It wasn't just the speed of their expansion. It was how they reacted to threats. 2 years ago, the pirate armada of Zarnak Theta descended on the human colony of Farreach. 27 pirate vessels, all heavily armed. The humans had no warships in orbit, just mining vessels and transport freighters. They repurposed everything, turned cargo haulers into kinetic weapons, slingshot them into pirate ships using nothing but trajectory math and desperation. When the smoke cleared, only one pirate vessel limped away. It exploded before it reached hyperspace. Human forces had remotely triggered its core. Then came the Pither event. The Council had issued a cease and desist order to a human colony mining in a neutral zone. The humans complied, packed up, left, but the day after they departed, the planet's core detonated. Someone had set charges deep below. An entire world rendered uninhabitable. Message received. Don't push too hard. And yet, the humans smiled in every transmission. Cheerful, cooperative, friendly even. It was maddening. The Council interpreted their duality as a threat. So the plan was set. Send an emissary under the guise of diplomacy. Gauge their disposition. Measure their response. Simultaneously, fleets would be mobilized in stealth, placed on standby across the neutral zones. If the humans flinch wrong, strike fast and end it. Vran had been chosen to deliver the message. Not a declaration of war, but something more subtle. A psychological probe, wrapped in diplomatic language. His task wasn't to make peace. It was to find the cracks in humanity's armor. He reviewed the files again, even though he knew them by memory. Over 100 alien encounters, 50 successful negotiations, and 12 direct conflicts. The humans had 111. The 12th was a draw on paper. In truth, both sides lost fleets, but the humans had walked away with territorial concessions. The enemy didn't want a rematch. What disturbed Vran most was their adaptability. Other species relied on protocol, hierarchy, tradition. Humans broke rules constantly, rewrote them mid-battle, or ignored them entirely when it suited them. One admiral once fired his own engines as a weapon, using the detonation wave to disable incoming torpedoes. It made no sense. It shouldn't have worked. It did. The worst part? They didn't see themselves as dangerous. They saw themselves as survivors, always with some noble justification. Protecting allies, defending sovereignty, responding to threats. They weren't conquerors. They were defenders with sharp claws. Vran opened a classified file. Operation Black Signal, one of the first contact missions with the humans. The alien ambassador had followed protocol, appeared unarmed, non-threatening, with open data ports for communication. The humans responded by jamming signals, surrounding the envoy ship with strike drones, and demanding it leave. The Council called it paranoia. The humans called it security. Another file. The Voth Inquisition's attempt to subjugate a fringe human colony. The Voth sent down their enforcers, expecting compliance. The colonists fought with repurposed mining lasers, atmospheric processors, even sharpened irrigation pipes. The last Voth transmission simply said, "They are not prey." Vran leaned back and exhaled slowly. The problem wasn't their weapons or numbers. It was their intent. Humans didn't attack without cause, but when they felt threatened, they responded with finality. Still, there were gaps. Humanity's leadership was decentralized, their politics divisive. Their military, while effective, was stretched thin across too many systems. Vran believed there was still time to subdue them, if done strategically. A sudden decapitation strike, paired with political disruption and trade sanctions, could work. But first, he needed to provoke a response. Pushed just enough to see how thin the human patience ran. He prepared his transmission. Formal greeting, acknowledgement of human expansion, veiled criticisms wrapped in diplomatic pleasantries, carefully worded accusations, a proposal to freeze territorial growth, a suggestion that future colonies must be approved by the Council. Benevolent oversight, of course. He knew they wouldn't accept. That was the point. They would push back, and then he'd document as aggression, justify further action. The fleets were already positioning. A message blinked across his console, a date and time. The humans had agreed to the meeting. Neutral ground, third-party observation, full transparency. Of course, they insisted on sending someone non-threatening, a representative from their diplomatic corps. He smirked. Probably some bureaucrat, or worse, a naive idealist. He'd be able to pressure them easily, maybe even manipulate them into overreacting. He sent his confirmation and closed the files. For now, all was in motion. The Council would have its confrontation. The humans would either fold or flare. Either way, Vran would be ready. What he didn't know, what the Council had underestimated, was that the humans weren't sending a diplomat in the traditional sense. They were sending something new, someone bred for war, trained for peace, and prepared for both. They weren't sending a bureaucrat. They were sending a diplomatic marine. And the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. Vran stood at the docking bay hours before the scheduled time. He didn't trust the humans to be punctual, but he didn't trust them to be late either. Predicting their behavior was like trying to calculate wind patterns during a supernova, chaotic, unstable, and always surprising. He rechecked the security protocols, ignored his aide's small talk, and stared down the corridor toward the incoming human vessel. It docked without ceremony. No armed escort, no visible insignia, no fanfare. A single ramp extended, and one figure stepped out. No admiral, no rogue diplomat, no delegation. Just one human, average height, female, worn black and gray armor, without any military rank insignia, no visible weapons, a data pad in one hand, the other hand free. She walked with the calm of someone who had seen worse things than anything the station could throw at her. She didn't offer a handshake, didn't bow, didn't salute. She just spoke. Sergeant Alaricallan, Diplomatic Corps. Vran blinked. A sergeant? The humans had sent an enlisted marine. Where's your ambassador? Vran asked. You're looking at her, she replied. I have full diplomatic authority for this engagement. That's highly irregular. Then it's a perfect fit for us. He didn't like her tone. Too casual, too confident. She didn't act like someone out of place. She acted like she owned the room. She wasn't trying to impress or intimidate. She didn't need to. They walked to the designated chamber. No guards followed her. Vran's aides kept glancing her way, as if expecting her to explode at any moment. She just walked, calm, unhurried. Inside, the room was silent. Vran opened the meeting with formal statements, council mandates, treaties, protocols. Alara didn't interrupt. She just listened. When it was her turn, she tapped her pad and began speaking. Her words weren't flowery or diplomatic. They were precise, direct, and unsettlingly logical. You're suggesting that humanity must limit expansion, that all future colonies be approved by your council, that military assets be declared and registered, and that violations will result in enforcement. She looked up. Did I miss anything? No, Vran said slowly. That's an accurate summary. She nodded. Then our answer is no. Vran's mandibles twitched. You don't even want to negotiate. We didn't come here to negotiate our autonomy. You expand recklessly. Your colonies cause instability. Your methods are effective, she interrupted. Every human colony is self-sufficient, fortified, and trade-enabled. We don't take. We build. Fast. That's the problem. No, she said flatly. The problem is you're used to species that wait for permission. We don't. Vran leaned forward. You misunderstand the Council concern. It's not fear. It's responsibility. We prevent chaos. By dictating who gets to grow? By installing vassal governments? By threatening war under the banner of Galactic Order? Vran narrowed his eyes. You see yourselves as victims. We see ourselves as targets. She tapped again, pulling up files. Evidence of Council-sanctioned interventions on fringe colonies, silent sabotage operations, economic blockades. Dates times names. Vran froze. She continued. We've tolerated it, tracked it, recorded it, and yet we still came to talk. Why? Because war's a bad investment. And yet, you've never shied from it. We never started one. He had no response. The data was too clean, too undeniable. She set the pad down. You want to test our restraint. You mistaken it for weakness. Vran exhaled sharply. You call sending a Marine to a diplomatic table restraint? I'm trained to de-escalate, she replied. I know how to survive. I also know how to end things quickly if I have to. Is that a threat? It's a fact. He studied her again, this time more carefully. There was no anger in her posture, no heat in her words. She wasn't bluffing. She didn't need to. There was a calm, surgical clarity to her presence, like someone who understood violence intimately and had no desire to use it unless provoked. You're not what I expected, he admitted. Because you built a story about us, she said. Violent, primitive, dangerous. But you never considered we could be disciplined, deliberate, diplomatic. Then why send someone like you? Because when diplomacy fails, you'll already be talking to the last person you should have tested. Silence fell between them. Vran tapped his console, activating a secure line. What if I told you that fleets are already positioning across 3 sectors? That this meeting is just a delayed tactic? She didn't blink. I'd say we've known that for weeks. He paused. Our intel flagged mobilizations before you even announced this meeting. Stealth probes marked fleet movements. Tactical models predicted this outcome with 91% accuracy. You're bluffing, she shrugged. Maybe. She picked up her pad, stood. But if I were you, I'd call them off. This is your one shot to walk away without finding out how we fight when words don't work. Vran watched her leave the room, her steps as calm as they were when she entered. He sat frozen, unsure what had just happened. He had come expecting a cornered animal. Instead, he had met a scalpel, precise, deadly, and controlled. A soldier trained not just to fight, but to paralyze conflict before it began. And somewhere deep in his chest, a cold realization crept in. The humans hadn't just prepared for war. They had prepared for him. The Council's fleets held their positions in silence. Vran's command center buzzed with activity, data streams flickering across holoscreens, but the tension was palpable. Every admiral, every tactician, awaited his report on the human representative. They expected evidence of weakness. Instead, they received something far more unsettling. Illyra Callan wasn't just a diplomat or a soldier. She was both. Her presence alone shifted the balance of power. And her message was clear. The humans were ready, not only to talk, but to fight with unrelenting precision if pushed. Vran stood before the Council once again. Their restraint is a strategy, not submission, he warned. They will negotiate, but they will not surrender sovereignty. If provoked, they will respond swiftly and without mercy. Counselor Drex, a reptilian elder with scales as hard as titanium, hissed. Then why have they not attacked us yet? If they're so dangerous, why not strike first? Because they are patient, Vran answered. They calculate. They weigh risk with a cold logic that we underestimate. But when they act, it is decisive. The Council debated for hours, voices rising and falling. But the verdict remained. Maintain the blockade, await further provocations, and prepare for escalation. Vran's report was to be distributed galaxy-wide. The humans were no longer a fringe species. They were a threat, unpredictable, disciplined, and dangerous. Meanwhile, back on Earth, or rather, the human flagship Resolute, Illyra was already preparing for the next move. She knew the Council's fleets were closing in, but her mission was clear. By time, gather intel and above all, prevent war. Her training kicked in. Years of combat, negotiation, survival, all distilled into moments of sharp decision-making. She reviewed intercepted communications, not just from the Council fleets, but from other species whispering fearfully about humanity. Some were ready to join the Council's containment strategy. Others hoped to exploit the situation for their gain. She reached out to Earth Command. "They're tightening the noose," she reported. Fleet positions confirmed in sectors Alpha 7, Gamma 3, and Delta 9. Estimated deployment in T-minus 72 hours. The response was terse. "Maintain your position. Avoid escalation unless absolutely necessary." Elara sighed. Diplomacy from command was always cautious. They trusted her to manage this volatile situation, to show strength without breaking the fragile peace. She also knew the truth. Peace was a luxury. The humans had grown too fast, too strong, to be ignored. The galaxy was waking up to their rise, and not everyone welcomed it. Her next step was to meet with the neutral mediators assigned to the talks. Representatives from the Illithar Consortium, a species known for their unyielding neutrality and tactical wisdom. If anyone could bridge the widening gap, it was them. The Illithar delegates were exacting, analytical, and spoke in measured tones. Their leader, Vinus, asked pointed questions. "Your military presence is undeniable," Vinus said. "Why send a Marine, not a formal ambassador?" Elara didn't hesitate. "Because the Council fears strength. They want to see if we will crack under pressure. Sending a Marine signals that we are prepared to defend ourselves, but also that we prefer reason over violence." Vinus nodded slowly. "And yet you have provoked them by refusing their demands." "No," Elara corrected. "We have refused their demands because they infringe on our sovereignty and the rights of every colony. We are not aggressors. We are survivors. We defend what is ours." Another delegate asked, "What if the Council escalates? If they attack, what will humanity do?" Elara met their gaze evenly. "We will respond, but not blindly. With precision, with strategy. We will protect our people and our systems. And we will remind the galaxy that humanity's strength is not just in weapons, but in resilience, unity, and the refusal to back down." Vinus looked impressed. "You carry the weight of your species well, Sergeant Callan." She allowed herself a small, grim smile. "I'm used to it." The talks continued, but the window for a peaceful resolution was closing. The fleets were maneuvering closer. Elara's mission was no longer just about diplomacy. It was about survival, her people's survival, and the survival of the ideal that humanity could coexist in the galaxy without being shackled or destroyed. She returned to Resolute, where her team awaited. Intelligence reports, tactical data, political updates, all flowed into her hands. She reviewed every detail with cold efficiency. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Harlan, approached. "We've detected increased Council drone activity near the neutral zones. It's a clear warning." Elara nodded. "Prepare the defense grid. Activate stealth protocols on all non-essential ships. We're buying time, but not for long." Harlan frowned. "Orders from Earth Command? Maintain peace, yes, but be ready to fight. We won't be caught off guard." That night, Elara reviewed the Council's patterns, searching for weaknesses. Humans had faced worse odds before, conflicts where they were outnumbered, outgunned, and underestimated. Each time, they adapted and survived. She remembered the words of an old mentor. In war, predictability is the enemy. Use their expectations against them. Elara planned to do exactly that. The galaxy might think humans were dangerous. They were right. But what they hadn't yet realized was just how dangerous humans could be when cornered, and how a single Marine, trained in both combat and diplomacy, could change the course of history. As she looked out at the stars, the coming storm was clear. The Council had made their move. Now it was humanity's turn to decide if they would back down or stand tall, and the galaxy would watch. The Council's fleets launched their preemptive strikes just as predicted. Silent, swift, precision missiles targeted key human outposts across the 3 sectors. The galaxy held its breath, but the humans were ready. Elara Callan's warnings had mobilized every available resource. The Resolute led a counteroffensive not of overwhelming force, but of tactical brilliance. Where others expected chaos, she imposed order. Enemy missiles tracked toward the first outpost. Automated defense turrets engaged but risked being overwhelmed. Ilera ordered a calculated retreat, drawing the attackers into a kill zone she prepared days earlier. Hidden human drones emerged from asteroid fields, disabling enemy missile guidance systems. Mines detonated in synchronized bursts, crippling enemy strike craft. Electronic warfare units jammed communication lines, fracturing fleet coordination. In minutes, the Council's initial wave was stalled, suffering heavier losses than anticipated. Vran watched the feeds, disbelief creeping in. The humans were not just offending. They were dominating engagement with ruthless efficiency. But the Council was vast. More ships came, more strikes launched. Ilera remained calm. She coordinated rapid redeployment of forces, reinforcing weak points, and orchestrated surgical counterattacks. Each move anticipated the enemy's reaction. The humans exploited every flaw in the Council's tactics. When the Council sent a diplomatic envoy to call for a ceasefire, Ilera responded with a clear message. Stop the aggression. Withdraw your fleets. Respect human sovereignty, or be prepared to face consequences you have never imagined. The galaxy watched as the tide turned. Human forces, though outnumbered, demonstrated a level of discipline, innovation, and unity the Council had not accounted for. Each colony rallied to the cause. Citizens volunteered for defense. Scientists accelerated weapon and defense tech development. The human spirit burned brighter than any star. Vran, forced to admit defeat, convened a new council session. This war, he said, has shown us the true nature of humanity. No longer the unpredictable barbarians, Councilor Drex agreed, but a species forged by adversity, capable of both diplomacy and destruction in equal measure. Negotiations reopened, this time on human terms. Ilera Callan was no longer just a marine or diplomat. She had become a symbol, a testament to humanity's strength and resilience. The Galactic Council agreed to a new treaty, recognizing human sovereignty and right to self-governance, while establishing mutual respect and cooperation. Humans did not conquer by brute force. They conquered through willpower, strategy, and an unbreakable spirit. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. That was its greatest mistake. Ilera returned home, her mission complete, but her watch ongoing. Because peace was fragile, and the galaxy would continue to watch humanity closely. But one thing was clear, the humans were here to stay. Not as threats, but as equals. And the diplomatic marine who stood her ground had rewritten the rules of engagement. The universe had met humanity's edge, and found it sharper than any blade.